What kind of top-notch enjoyment is this? A man who dared to fulfill his dream of living in a fantasy world, braving the icy wilderness of Alaska to build a hobbit-like igloo with nothing but his bare hands. The interior space of the igloo was not only spacious enough for one person, but it also offered an open living area that felt incredibly freeing. It was, in every sense, the perfect place to stay in the wild, with the added bonus of a magnificent view of the winter landscape. The man's name was Neil. With the temperature hovering around -20 degrees Celsius, Neil set off into the frigid winter forest, determined to realize the vision he had long dreamed of. After trekking 5 kilometers through deep snow, he finally found an open area. Without hesitation, he grabbed his shovel and began his work. His boots marked the first steps, outlining the rough shape of the igloo, and then he began to shovel the surrounding snow toward the center. The task was exhausting, but the sound of the shovel cutting through the snow felt almost rhythmic, like slicing through soft tofu. The cold air bit at his face, but Neil was focused on his dream. 2 hours of hard labor later, Neil had built a small snow mound in the center. He carefully packed it down with his weight to increase the snow's density and stability. As he worked, he couldn't help but appreciate the beauty of the surrounding winter forest, like a living painting, though his mission came first. With his hands numb from the cold, Neil worked tirelessly to shape the snow mound, knowing that any misstep could lead to hours of backtracking. The igloo was starting to take form. Neil, ever meticulous, saw that it lacked a grand facade, so he set to work shaping the entrance and trimming the outer contour. As the sunlight beamed down on the snowy landscape, Neil's vision began to crystallize. After using a saw to trim the snow house walls, he dug inward, ensuring that the space inside was comfortable enough to live in. With the snow walls trimmed to the desired thickness, Neil carved out a bed from the soft snow and covered it with cedar branches to keep warm. A simple but effective technique, the cedar branches not only provided comfort, but also insulated the cold air. His igloo was now a shelter fit for the wild. The next task was to gather firewood, and fortunately, the forest provided ample resources. With several efficient chops, Neil had enough wood for the night. He assembled his folding stove, extended the chimney, and connected it to the smoke pipe to ensure proper ventilation. Once the stove was lit, the warmth of the fire filled the igloo, and Neil could finally relax. The harsh cold outside could not touch him now. After a brief rest, Neil prepared dinner. He fried beef in a pan until it was perfectly browned, added local snow and vegetables, and simmered it all together. The smell of the dish filled the igloo, signaling that comfort was only moments away. Once the meal was ready, Neil brewed some cedar tea and sat down to enjoy the fruits of his labor. As night fell and the temperature plummeted, Neil sealed the entrance with blocks of snow to ward off the cold. He lit a warm nightlight, climbed into his makeshift bed, and finally fell asleep, content and peaceful. Would you dare to live in such an igloo? To face the cold and embrace the comfort of the wilderness? Neil had done it, and for him, it was the perfect way to experience the ultimate solitude and serenity in nature.